She's listed by VegNews magazine as one of the top 10 living vegetarian authors, which is pretty cool. She's written 12 books, including Main Street Vegan, Creating a Charmed Life, and her brand new book, The Good Karma Diet. I'm excited to hear about that one. Her fans range from Michael Moore to Ellen Degeneres. She's been on Oprah twice. Want to hear about that too? She hosts the weekly podcast called Main Street Vegan and directs Main Street Vegan Academy, an in-person program in New York City to train vegan lifestyle coaches. She's a co-writer of Miss Liberty, which is a feature film in pre-production about a cow who escapes from a slaughterhouse. Yay, cow. And her website is mainstreetvegan.net. And with that, I will give it over to Victoria. Thank you.
Thanks so much. I knew you guys were smart because you have learned to avoid winter. But I also noticed that you've spaced yourselves out very well so that my empty seat allergy will not come to the fore. So it's all good. Wonderful to have you here today. Are you guys extra healthy because of all of the saunas you get for free? Yeah, that was kind of what I felt like. I guess steam bath is actually more applicable. I have heard that we shouldn't go in steam baths at the gym because it's chlorinated water and we're breathing all that in. But one could move to Florida and get all the benefits in the healthy way. So I just want to let you know what's going around. There are some bookmarks about the Main Street Vegan podcast. If there aren't enough, there are more at the back table. And on this side, I'm passing around a sign-up sheet. And what this means is you'll get a handout for this talk if you want one. And that'll have some recipes and some notes. And also, you'll be on the list for the Main Street Minute, which is my little newsletter. And if you're already on that list, you won't be on it twice. And if you don't want to be on it at all, that's fine too. I get way too many emails, and if you do also, I certainly understand. But please keep that moving around and also make sure that it gets across the aisle so that we get to as many people as possible. Is this being recorded? Yes. Okay, then I won't say anything incriminating, and we will get started. So the topic today is called Eat Gently, Feel Amazing, Age in Slow Motion. Now that is the subtitle of my brand new book, The Good Karma Diet. But here's the deal about good karma eating. We're here today in a good karma situation. To take any step in this direction, you are doing so much good for the world, so much good for others, that it only makes sense that some of that is going to come back to you. What goes around comes around. I've certainly found that in my life. So it really happens in two ways. One is that you're just being such a good person. You're ending the suffering of others every time you choose to eat a plant-based meal instead of an animal-based meal. And some people say, I can't be 100% vegan. Okay, every time you eat a plant-based meal instead of an animal-based meal, you are doing something for the other, and that does come back. And then in a very, very practical way, plants heal. This food is so incredibly sustaining, so incredibly revivifying and revitalizing that amazing things happen when you do it. So I could just give myself as an example. Last spring, President Obama wrote to me, but he made a mistake. I opened the envelope and he had sent me a Medicare card. And I thought, but my grandmother doesn't live here. What is this thing? Well, then I realized that this thing was that I was 65. Oh my gosh. I remember when we weren't supposed to trust anybody over 30. Well, I thought, I can't be 65, because when you're 65 in this country, you are believed to be so antiquated that the government, the United States government, will actually give you back some of your own money so that you can just rest. But not being ready to rest, it just all seemed really strange. And yet, Probably some because of genetics, but a lot because I've been vegan since 1983, vegetarian since 1969. The years have been good to me. And I'm not alone in this. I see so many people, particularly the ones who eat a really kind of high green, high raw, lots of those juices and smoothies and great big salads. I am known for salad bowls from a restaurant supply house because nobody else makes them big enough to let me do all the tossing that I tend to. You go there too, see? This is a sister in crime. Now, I didn't used to tell people my age, because we live in a culture that is ageist. That means that people have an idea that when you get to be of a certain age, you are to be diminished. You know, kind of pat on the head thing. Well, I didn't want people doing that to me. And I had heard that Carol Channing, because she grew up in Christian Science, and they don't believe in age, because they don't believe in material anything. So she never told her chronological age until she was 83. And then she figured, I'm so cool at 83, I'm gonna tell everybody. So I kind of did that at 65. And here is the wonderful thing about taking what you have for your own activism in the cause. I'm gonna ask in a minute who's new. The new people are the most important, but I wanna say something now for the people who have been around us a lot, for people who are animal activists, for people who are really into the whole vegan thing, and this is your life, and this is your passion. You take what you have, and that's what is gonna spread it out to other people. Now, we just had Omawale up here boxing. My dad was actually a boxer. He was a prize fighter and worked his way through medical school doing that back in Detroit in the 1930s. Well, he didn't pass those genes on to me, so I'm not gonna get up here and box. Omawale can do that. So what do I have? A couple of things. One is that I used to be obese. I was kind of historically obese because back when I was obese, almost nobody was, especially not kids. Well, now it's kind of shifted around, but by the grace of God and 31 years as a vegan, that particular part of my life is behind me. And that's something that a lot of people would like to leave behind them, so I'm willing to share about that. Another thing that I've done is raise a daughter as a vegan. And this is a cool thing, because sometimes people will say to you, it's fine that you're vegan. You wouldn't want to raise a child that way. I hear the same thing about New York City, where I live. Oh, New York's great. You wouldn't want to raise a child there. It's like, well, you know, didn't hurt some of these great, fabulous scholars and writers. But anyway, my daughter has been vegan since infancy, and she's a stunt performer. Is that cool? She is the stunt double for the young Bruce Wayne on Gotham. I was out in my hometown of Kansas City last week and went into a gift shop, and they had a sign on the wall, and it said, you should always be yourself, unless you could be Batman. Then you should always be Batman. I said, is that for sale? I don't care if it's for sale or not, I'm taking it. So, Christmas present. And the third thing that I have to share with people who are interested in changing their diet is that I am 65 for whatever that's worth, and I don't have any of the diseases that my family had. Before they got to be this age, everybody had high blood pressure, heart disease, high cholesterol, type 2 diabetes, and some were developing Parkinson's. I mean, it's not a great history, but I think if a lot of us look back in our families, we can kind of list some of those same things. By the grace of God, I'm good. Now, I know that one day I'm leaving here. These are vegetables, not eternal life elixirs, but they're pretty cool. And the wonderful thing to all of you committed vegans and animal activists, when you have something like this that you can share with people, it's just another way to plant the seeds. I was at Penn Station in New York City getting a ticket to go to Newark Airport. I go to a lot of airports. And I went to get my ticket, and behind the counter, there's this gorgeous young girl. Is anybody kind of over 50? And you look at young people and you think, you are so beautiful. And I know you don't think so, and it's just such a waste. But anyway, she was gorgeous. You know, she had this thick, black, curly hair. And she had this little bitty tiny waist and these cute perky boobs, and she was just so adorable. And I said, round trip to Newark, and I want the senior discount. She said, you have to be 62. I said, oh, I'm more than 62. I'm 65. She says, whatever. Now, that day, she said, whatever. But the day will come, and anybody who has kind of gotten into that part of life will believe me, the day will come when the goddesses of youthfulness will abandon her. She will wake up in the morning, and she will know that invasion of the body snatchers has happened in her bedroom. She will know that her nice flat stomach and her nice round bottom have switched. And she will remember that day, 2015, that woman, the ticket, because she said to me, as I did say to her, I'm vegan, we don't show our age. And it will come back to her. Vegan. Better Google that. Or whatever they'll have 40 years from now when we don't have Google anymore. And she's going to start eating plants, and she's going to start saving animals, and that is going to be a very, very, very good thing. So let's talk about you. Let's talk about getting you eating gently and feeling amazing and aging in slow motion. And I know many of you already do all of those things. But the first thing I want to know, who is new? Who just kind of wandered in here and this is your first veg type experience? Hi. So were you brought by some of these females sitting near you? That often happens. Welcome. We love our guys. Wally was just in here. I don't know why this microphone is acting weird. I didn't do the lavalier because they really act weird. The worst was I had a lavalier and I was supposed to be speaking about vegan stuff, and I'm standing there trying to give my talk, and I hear, swear to God, this was at a Unity Church in Kansas City, Missouri. Do you want fries with that? Literally, it was taken up from a McDonald's. You know, you can't make this stuff up. But these days, we have these incredible vegan athletes. They're making a documentary that'll come out next year called Game Changers about how the whole idea of macho and masculinity and what it means to be a real guy is totally shifting to how a real guy eats plants, is strong and vibrant and cares. It's wonderful. So thank you. Thank you for being here. Anybody else kind of new to all this? Wow, I am speaking so much to the choir, we should divide into sopranos and altos. So let me just, who's like vegan? You were like so vegan, it's like, don't you dare put a drop of milk in my candy bar. Okay. She's in the back. That's great. Oh, the vegan police, you've been outed. Okay. And who's like vegetarian, looking at vegan, you know, healthy, into healthy eating, omnivore maybe, healthy? Okay, anybody just, I eat anything that isn't nailed down and I don't care. Okay, all right, that's a good, all right, gosh, this really is the choir. See, I thought we would get more of the civilians in here because it's so hot outside.
They're not smart enough. Yeah.
Well, you know, you said it, so we're being recorded. Yeah, it is interesting. I do a lot of Veg Fests, and I get the sense that the people that are not yet vegetarian are out there trying out the food, which is great, because that is what we call culinary activism. That's a way to bring people over, because you know, a lot of people are so afraid. It's like, I don't eat vegan food. Oh no, peanut butter and jelly, that stuff will kill you. You know, people don't understand. They eat a whole lot of vegan food. It's just when you start calling it vegan food, they get really scared. But I really did think the weather would bring us a lot of people in. Okay, well then I'm gonna shift. I'm not gonna do so much my here's to the new person idea. And we're gonna talk a little bit more to the choir, but I'm gonna remember this man over here in the green shirt, because he is the most important.
You want fries with that?
Person. Okay, I'm gonna speak up until this gentleman can get everything fixed, because we have to be flexible in this world. You know how I get flexible these days? I have taken up aerial yoga. That is what everybody should do when you're 65. Does anybody do aerial yoga? Oh my mind. It is the most fun. You can do it in your body. It's not hard, but there's something amazing about kind of being suspended. So, are we gonna get a mic? Or?
I would see if I can grab a sound guy.
Okay, just a minute.
Make sure I record the sound.
When in doubt, how's this? No,
Hold
everything
thanks,
is
All right, now we got my
I
feedback.
heard something.
Yeah.
feedback. Feedback, okay.
There we go.
This is the one. All right.
Oh, wow.
Sorry. Okay. How's this? In the back? Okay. All right. I love acronyms because it helps people remember. And don't anybody say when you're 65 you need things to help you remember. Not if you eat enough plants. But I'm going to give you an acronym for the beautiful, beautiful word ahimsa. Who wants to give me a definition of ahimsa? Okay.
Non-harming.
Non-harming. That comes from yoga. It's the idea of reverence for life. Probably my favorite quotation in all the world.
One of the microphones went out.
Do what? Oh, thank you, okay. Is from, do what?
There, okay.
Here.
Yeah. Yes.
Thank you. Okay, if I shift or move or do anything imperfect, let me know. Let me know. Watch this woman. Okay. Mahavira, he's from the Jain religion of India, said, to every creature, his own life is very dear. Who could argue with that? And if his life or her life is very dear, and I have no business interfering with that if I possibly can help it. So that for me is the basis of my veganism. Does it help me stay young? Yes. Does it help me stay healthy? Sure. Has it helped me keep more than 60 pounds off for 31 years? Yes. Is that why I do it? No. Those are side effects. Benefits, and I'm grateful for them, but I do it because to every creature, his own life is very dear. Now, it's very interesting that in the ahimsa philosophies of India, so we're talking Jainism, Hinduism, Buddhism, the whole yoga philosophy, ahimsa is really the first ideal. It's kind of like the first commandment of yoga, like we have 10 and they have, I think it's 8, but ahimsa is the big one. There was a wonderful gentleman who's considered the historian of the vegetarian movement. His name was Rinberry. He passed away last year. But he would tell this great story about how important ahimsa is in these philosophies. He said, if you were a member of an ahimsa-based religion and you saw a hunter in the woods, and the hunter said to you, which way did the deer go? And you absolutely know the deer went that way. You could ignore the commandment against not stealing and say, deer went that way. Or you could even, if you had the chance, ignore the commandment not to steal. You could filch the hunter's bows or arrows because that would save the deer. And ahimsa is a higher commandment. You could even ignore the commandment calling for sexual purity and seduce the hunter because that would distract him and save the deer. So that is how important ahimsa is in these philosophies. And we borrow some of that as vegetarians and vegans. So A in the word ahimsa is add more to your life than you subtract. H is harm no one, not even yourself. try is immerse yourself in these ideas until you really understand them so that you can live healthfully and vibrantly and also answer the questions of other people. M is to memorialize your life and your experience doing this. And you can do that so easily these days online, such a great way to carry the message. And A is to attract others by living an aspirational life. So we're going to talk about all those things. First, we're going to start with that first A, which is add more to your life than you subtract. So here's the deal that happens with a lot of people when they go vegan. Okay, they're vegan, they're doing fine, they like it. And then somebody says, what is this thing you're eating funny? What is this vegan thing? Well, we have this idea, ooh, there's a live one, grab it. And then we say, well, a vegan does not eat meat, fowl, fish, eggs, including in baked goods. Dairy products, that includes milk, butter, cream, clotted cream, whipped cream, cheese, including in pizza, yogurt, cottage cheese. A truly ethical vegan also does not use honey. And if you really are serious, you don't wear fur, leather, wool, silk, down. You don't use cosmetics that have been tested on animals or that have any animal ingredients. And you don't take your kids to SeaWorld or to the circus. You lost him back at butter. I mean, he's waiting for the vow of celibacy. So instead, when somebody says, I don't understand this thing you do, what is it? The answer that I like to give is, oh my gosh, second only to having my daughter, this is the most amazing thing that has happened in my entire life. This is a way of having the most amazing, wonderful, delicious food like I didn't even know existed on the planet, incredible health, and this wonderful feeling in my heart that I'm not hurting anybody. It's just the coolest thing ever. Well, what's that going to do to a person? Then they're going to say, well, tell me more. Well, what do you eat? What did you have for breakfast? Where do you buy your shoes? All that is going to come out of the fact that you have added more to your life than you've subtracted, and then people are going to want to add some of that stuff too. And even in a health way, you want to add vegetables and fruits and beans and whole grains because, oh my gosh, that stuff isn't just good for you, that stuff is absolutely healing. Remember, an apple a day keeps the doctor away? Oh my gosh, an apple a day keeps the undertaker away. You can't get much better than that. Now, the next part of the acronym for the word ahimsa is harm no one, including yourself. So obviously, we're gonna harm people, especially the ones we're married to. You know, that's just kind of the way it is. So you make your amends, you do the best you can, but you wanna live your life in a way that you set out each day to do the most good and the least harm that's humanly possible. And to me, this is one of the coolest things about being vegan, because you don't have to do anything other than eat. And you were gonna eat anyway. So we talk about multitasking. Well, how amazing it is that you're changing the world, you're saving lives, you're clearing your arteries, you're helping the planet not go under, just because you got up and had oatmeal. Now, if I get up and have oatmeal, wanting my life to be a little bit glittery, I'm not just gonna have oatmeal, and this is very important when you're talking to people, and they say to you, well, what did you eat for breakfast? If you say oatmeal, they're gonna go, I'm going for an egg McMuffin. What you want to say is, I had an oatmeal parfait. And that means that I made my oatmeal with almond milk, so it's really, really creamy. And then on top, I put blueberries. Do you know that according to the National Institutes of Health, if you eat 1/2 cup blueberries per day, It is believed to fend off Alzheimer's even if you have the Alzheimer's gene. Amazing, isn't it? And then I put on 2 teaspoons of ground flax. Do you know that in addition to having omega-3 fatty acids, flaxseed have lignans that are protective against breast cancer? And because I really like walnuts, I put on some walnuts for even more omega-3s. And then I chop on a very ripe banana. It's good to wait till the banana gets spots and freckles on it, because that means that the starch is turned into sugar. It tastes better, it's really easy to digest, and it's oh so very good. And then I'll drizzle on a little bit of pure Vermont maple syrup that I got when I visited my in-laws up there 2 months ago. It's so good. And of course I have my chai tea, rich and creamy, and I foam the soy milk myself. Now, you might bore them to death unless you're talking to a dyed-in-the-wool foodie, but nobody is ever going to say boring. And that's really important, because people are so worried. They're worried about being different. They're worried about being boring. They're worried about not getting some kind of isolated nutrient that they heard about on the Dr. Oz show. And you may be the only vegan they've ever met until you convert them, and then there will be 2. So you harm no one by your actions, your choices in life, and you also don't harm yourself. And what does that mean, you don't harm yourself? Well, it means you take good care of yourself. It also means that you just don't take crap off anybody. And that means somebody who's trying to give you a hard time for being a vegan, or that means somebody who's giving you a hard time for not being the kind of vegan they think you ought to be. Has anybody met one of those people? Yes, some of us have. You know what? We're all perfect. We are all, as the husband of a friend of mine used to say to her when she would get down on herself, you are right on time, doing fine. We are all doing the very best we can, and so you need to celebrate yourself, because you are one of the light workers, as my new agey friends say. I, in the word ahimsa, is immerse yourself in these ideas. Why is that important? Why is that necessary? Because you have entered a new culture. If you were moving to Ethiopia, you'd read up on Ethiopia. You would find out how they do things there. You would find out, for instance, that in Ethiopia, forks are considered weapons. It's rude to use a fork in Ethiopia, and that's why they wrap the food in that wonderful, delicious, stretchy bread called injera. There's Ethiopian food outside. I hope to make you all hungry. You can go get some. So you find out how things work over there. Well, if you are going to enter vegandom, or even the outskirts of vegandom, which is sort of every once in a while vegandom, you still want to study up. You want to get a guidebook. But we are so fortunate these days that it's really easy to get this information. When I started out, and this is when I'm really going to sound old, when I started out, but it's true, there was one book on vegetarianism that was in print. It's called Why Kill for Food. Did you know that book back in the day?
No, I'm French.
You're French, okay. He was English, Jeffrey Rudd, English fellow. And there were 2 cookbooks, both still in print. The Vegan Kitchen from Freya Dinshaw of the American Vegan Society, still going strong. And 10 Talents from a wonderful Seventh-day Adventist lady who had been Mrs. Minnesota and had about 103 children, and was a really good cook, and recently revised that book. I still use it. Fabulous macaroni and cheese in that book with nutritional yeast as the cheesy base. So you want to immerse yourself and get the information. Why is that? You're in a new culture. You learn to do things differently. If somebody says to me, balanced meal, what does that look like? I see a pork chop, mashed potatoes and gravy, some green beans with some pieces of bacon in it, a glass of milk, and a piece of apple pie with a scoop of ice cream on top. Because that's the kind of meals I ate growing up, and there was probably a poster like that somewhere in the school cafeteria, and so that's in my brain. But that's not how I do things today, so I had to study and learn about how to do things differently. Those of you who have been vegetarian for a long time, do you remember when you first made the switch? Were you thinking, what goes in that place on the plate? I mean, I was obsessed with, okay, I can do the mashed potatoes and not put beef broth in the gravy. I can do the green beans and not put in the bacon. But what do I put where the piece of meat went? And in those days, of course, we didn't have Whole Foods or really cool natural food stores. We had these dark, dirty, funny smelling health food stores. And I went into one and I bought some fake meat in a can because you had to have something to go where the meat went. And I picked up the can and there was a circle of dust because it had been such a long time since anyone had been there before me. It was absolutely frightening. Well, what we see now, and any of you have been at this for a long time, is we don't have to put something where the meat was because we have all this food, all this wonderful food. And lots of times we mix it all up and we do stir fries and we do Buddha bowls and we do one dish meals and we do all things that are kind of mixed together. But back in the days where the pork chop went there, we need something to go there. And so you need to tell people what they can put there. Something based on beans lots of times, and people will say, I don't eat beans, it causes gas. Eat a bean. Eat a bean, and tomorrow eat 2 beans. Because beans are amazing. People who eat beans live longer. There is a substance in beans that helps people lose weight. How great is that? They are absolutely so cheap. If you buy them dry in the bag and you have to soak them, they're cheap to start with and then you get more. I mean, what else swells up? Everything, whether it's animal or vegetable. You cook it, it gets smaller. I usually use spinach raw, but the other day I was cold up in New York and I decided I would just cook the spinach and oh my gosh, in 30 seconds, it went from this to this. I mean, it was like the great invisible disappearing greenery. But with beans, they swell up. So that's the kind of thing, the bean, the grain, the vegetable, you learn how to do this. You learn what you need nutritionally. And basically, all you need nutritionally is to eat plants. Whole plants, ideally. Fruits, vegetables, whole grains, legumes, nuts and seeds. But fruit has sugar, yes, and it's packaged in the most perfect way that you can use it. Maybe I should eat a little bit less. No, maybe you should eat quite a bit more. A couple of great books by medical doctors. Proteinaholic. Has anybody read Proteinaholic? Is it fabulous? Do you love it? Get Proteinaholic, written by a bariatric surgeon in Houston. And then coming in December, but you can order it now, is How Not to Die by Michael Greger, whom I hear is going to be coming to your area in February. And it's fabulous. The first half of the book is How Not to Die from all the things that people are afraid of. How not to die from heart disease, how not to die from breast cancer, how not to die from prostate cancer, how not to die from Parkinson's disease, how not to die from infectious disease. It's everything how not to die. It is so cool. And then the second half is all the fabulous foods and the exercise that helps you prolong your life in great health and vitality, not just kind of hanging along in some nursing home. This is Earth. Tragic things can happen to anybody, but we obviously want to hedge our bets. You do need to take vitamin B12 if you are a vegan, and if you're over 50, you need to take vitamin B12 if you're a paleo, because vitamin B12 is not reliably found in the plant kingdom, and it's very hard to get out of animal foods once you get to be a certain age. My friend, the dietitian Jenny Messina, is fond of responding to the argument, well, you vegans have to take vitamin B12, which proves it's not natural to be vegan. And she says, well, I guess it's not natural to be over 50. So you learn what you need to learn, and then you do it. Because people will ask you questions, and it's great to have answers. But the answer that people are really going to get something from is who you are and how you live, and as Dr. Phil would say, how's that working for you? When it's working well, then you're a light in this world, and you're attracting other people to live well as well. M in the word ahimsa, memorialize your life. Now, it used to be in the old days, if you were going to memorialize your life, you had to be greatly talented in some area. You had to be a painter. Anybody could say that Gauguin memorialized his time in the South Pacific with his paintings. Frida Kahlo memorialized her life. And poets and writers. But now, anybody with a computer, anybody with an iPhone can memorialize your life online. So all this means is share. If your food is looking really good, take pictures of it. If it looks kind of bland and brown, it might taste good, but don't take a picture of it. You gotta kind of weigh these things. You see, we're the ambassadors. We're ambassadors for health, for sanity, and most of all, we're ambassadors for the animals. So let people know about your life. And some people say, nobody cares about my life. Yes, they do. Have you ever watched reality TV? We care about people whose lives are kind of pitiful. So you're living this wonderful, amazing vegan life. People will care because you know what? We all want to be better. We all want to have a little more magic. You know, Peggy Lee, is that all there is? Well, you know what? Go vegan and you'll find out there is a whole lot more every day and every decade. So, who's on Facebook? Okay, practically the universe. Okay. Now, Facebook can be a very scary place because it's kind of where people with bad humor go to let it out. But if you're careful, you can kind of, make it so that only nice people are your Facebook friends, and you can tell them, oh my gosh, I just made this fabulous mac and cheese from this really old vegan cookbook. It was really, really good. So, a history lesson, a culinary lesson. People will find that interesting. Don't beat them over the head. I have had omnivorous friends say, I've unfriended all of my vegans except for you because all they can post are horrible pictures of terrible things done to animals and food. Well, we eat, and we care about animals, but you want to post other stuff too. Like, gosh, here I am going to the theater with my sister. And that tells people, oh, you can be vegan and still be a regular person. Phew, I was worried about that one. Who's on Twitter? Oh, come on, I know they're losing money, but let's give them a little more support than that. I love Twitter because it's short. And you can get into this thing of where you're just sucked in and you're looking at a screen all your life, and that's not a very good life. But Twitter is so short, you don't have to look at it all that much, and it actually has overthrown governments and things. So maybe it can overthrow animal husbandry. I'm thinking. Anyway, Twitter is really, really fun. Who's on Instagram? Okay, we're gonna take pictures and we're gonna share, and then you can instantly put it on your Twitter and on your Facebook. You see, some people are visual. I'm not. I totally don't get the visual thing. Back in the days before Siri, when we actually had to get directions from other humans, people would say, I'll draw you a map. And I would say, please don't, because I don't do visual. I'm auditory. A lot of people are visual. More people are visual than anything else. And so the pictures are really, really helpful. And then some other people are kinesthetic, and that means they like to move around. Who's on Periscope? Periscope are little videos that go away after 24 hours. And you can actually document your whole life. And you can say, here I am at the Tampa Bay Veg Fest. And it's really, really cool, even though it's really, really hot. And here I am eating Ethiopian food. And here I am having frozen banana ice cream. Really good. See ya. Now, some people would say, why would you want to do that? Because there are people in your world who don't know that there is a Tampa Bay Veg Fest or even that there are veg fests. A lot of people have never had Ethiopian food. A lot of people don't know that you can make magic banana ice cream. Do y'all know how to make magic banana ice cream? You get the bananas all speckled and you chop them and freeze them And then if you have a champion juicer, it's amazing because it comes out like Dairy Queen, non-Dairy Queen. But even if you just have a food processor, you put it in there and scrape down the sides. And I kind of cheat and put in a little vanilla. Some people say it's alcohol, but no, it's really good. And you scrape down the sides, and it is ice cream. It's wonderful. It's miraculous. Now, of course, we can buy all kinds of great other vegan ice creams too, but that way you get the wonderful fruit that's healing, and people think it's fun, and kids think it's fun. You post that, and one of your omnivore friends who's got kids is going to make that with your kids because it's fun. Maybe they're not going to stop eating the other kind of ice cream, but remember, every time you eat a meal comes from plants, you're saving an animal. This is such a great big deal. So every time you do something cool, every time you do something fun, every time you have a thought that is brilliant or even remotely interesting, even if only to you, post it, because it just very well may be interesting to somebody else. And of course, if you have a cat or a dog or a ferret or a gerbil or a bird or somebody like that who is part of your family but is not of the human family, post that too, because we all love animal pictures regardless of what is on our plate. A, the final A in the word ahimsa is attract others through the way you live. I call this attraction activism, and I didn't make it up. I kind of borrowed it from AA. Now, anybody who's ever been out at a bar, having a drink, has never been bothered because some AA guy comes up and says, here's a tract, you really shouldn't be drinking. They don't do that. They live their lives, they recover from alcoholism, and somebody else who has that problem is attracted to come there and get the same kind of help. So that's what we can be as vegans. We're all busy. Some people are out carrying signs and writing letters and doing all kinds of amazing things, and that is fabulous. But you know, you got a job or two, a kid or two, a spouse or not, you know, you're gonna be busy. So think about, how can you be an activist in your busy life? You can shine your light. And then people are going to want what you have. That's what they say in AA. If somebody wants what you have, then they'll do what you did to get it. So, you want to be as healthy as you can be. I know no guarantees. It's a terrible thing to be vegan and feel like if you get a cold, you have to go into hiding because you're bad for the cause. But you know what? The studies show that this is a fabulous diet to protect against heart disease, many kinds of cancer, certain autoimmune diseases, obesity, diabetes type 2, lots of things. You know what? Infectious diseases, statistically, we kind of get them as often as anybody else. Now you'll hear people say, I'm vegan and I haven't had a cold in 17 years. And I want to say, good for you. Remind me next time I have one to get really close and to sneeze. It's just how it is. So we don't have to be perfect. But you want to have some vitality. And what this means is take care of yourself. So get some sleep, even if you're trying to save the world. And have some fun. And that's so hard, especially for people who really care about animals. How can I have fun when the animals are suffering? That is one of those philosophical questions that humans have wrestled with, especially in regards to other humans, as long as we've been here. It doesn't make sense that we should be able to be happy when they're not. If our being sad saved them, we should be sad. But it doesn't. All it does is make us look dour and make people not want to join us. So our happiness actually helps them. Our happiness uplifts everybody around us. Remember we talked about karma and how stuff goes around and comes around? It absolutely does. So have some fun. Go to a movie. Go to a baseball game. enjoy your life and then spread that joy out and save some for those who are having no joy at all. This is an amazing way to live. It's going to feed your brain in such a way that your thought processes are going to be clearer and sharper. You'll remember things. You'll be more creative. You'll see things with brighter colors and more sharply defined edges. You'll have insights into things. You'll have understanding of people, and your heart will open. And that's kind of sad because your heart's probably pretty open already. And sometimes I think the last thing I need is a more open heart. It breaks every day as it is. But you know what? Your heart's going to open in a couple of ways. The work of Dr. Dean Ornish, reported way back in 1990 in The Lancet, the British medical journal, showed for the very first time in the history of medicine that heart disease could be reversed by a whole foods plant-based diet, by group support, meditation, moderate exercise. What a nice way to live is that. Dr. Ornish's first book had the very medical title of Dr. Dean Ornish's Program for Reversing Heart Disease. Well, that was his publisher's title. You know what he wanted to call it? Opening Your Heart. Because you see, he was a yoga guy. And he came at the whole vegetarian thing from the standpoint of ahimsa. Before he was a cardiologist, before he was the first person to discover that heart disease could be reversed, he learned from his yoga teacher, Swami Satchidananda, that the heart can open, the metaphorical heart. And when that happens for you, and then it ripples out, it's almost like you become a cardiologist, and you're just opening hearts and minds and lives, and before you know it, the world has changed, and you've been a part of that, and there is nothing more spectacular than knowing at any point in your life, at any given day, that you are part of something way bigger and grander, and I would say holier. God bless you.